Hi students, welcome to Global Online Kannada. In this session, we are going to see KSOU PhD Common Entrance Tests Research Methodology MCQs. And in today's session, we are going to see hypothesis in research in detail by using MCQs. Hypothesis is nothing but the predicted outcomes of the research, and that's why on this topic each year you will be asking most of the MCQs in PhD Common Entrance Test. So students, I have covered the concepts relevant to hypothesis, such as what is definition of hypothesis, different types of hypothesis, its importance in this session by using MCQs. So students, you need to watch this session until the end so that all of your doubts will get clear. Students, let us begin with this session now. So students, all of you know that Karnataka State Open University's PhD Common Entrance Test 2023 will be on 23rd July, right? And in this PhD Common Entrance Test, you will be asking 50% MCQs from research methodology and 50% MCQs from concerned subject. So to qualify this entrance test, all of the students need to score more marks in research methodology section and as well in the concerned paper subject. Okay, so students, to score more marks in research methodology, we, that is Global Online team, provides you research methodology complete course. By the use of this complete course, all the candidates can guaranteed qualify PhD Common Entrance Test. So in this course, we provide you full syllabus video lectures under which theory and MCQ lecture both are available. We provide you full syllabus notes and mock tests. We have 10 mock tests like this, and each mock test contains 40 MCQs, and that's why overall all the students can solve 400 MCQs. We provide you more than 1500 MCQs revision PDF. So by the use of this revision PDF, all the candidates can revise all the topics in this PDF only, and that's why they'll be getting 80% MCQs from this PDF only out of 100% MCQs in the research methodology paper of PhD Common Entrance Test. So all of these study material are available in both the languages, and those are Hindi and English both. So students, if you want to buy this complete course, then either you can download the Global Online app from the Play Store, for which I have given the link in the description box of this video, or else students can be contact me through the WhatsApp numbers which are I have given on this screen. So students, the course fees are only 699, and in these low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates that they can guaranteed qualify the PhD Common Entrance Test and take the admission to the PhD at the university. So students, we have demo video lectures, we have demo mock tests, and you can give demo mock tests and watch video lectures, that to demo video lectures, free of cost on the Global Online app, and after that they can buy the complete course. Okay, so this research methodology complete course is nothing but the research methodology revision package for all the students, and after that obviously they can study very well research methodology subject by this research methodology complete course. Okay.
Question 1 is, suppose a researcher tests the null hypothesis through two-tailed test and another researcher tests directional hypothesis through one-tailed test. The difference is it. So basically in this question they have asked us that exactly what is the difference between two-tailed test and one-tailed test in regard to the testing part of null hypothesis and directional hypothesis respectively. So basically students, in one-tailed test there is only one end for alternative hypothesis, okay, and that's why it is called as the directional hypothesis, okay. But for two-tailed test it has two ends, okay, both the ends, that and those are left and right ends, okay, and that's why there are lots of differences in the testing part of two-tailed test and one-tailed test, and those are differences in statistical formula, because these are the two different tests, and that's why we need to use different statistical formula. Again, the level of significance is different, and as well the table value that we use for testing significance is different. So basically all of we know that what is the table value. So basically there is a table which is called as the T distribution table, okay, and that table is for both two-tailed test and one-tailed test, and the values are different for two-tailed test and one-tailed test in the table. and we need to use those values for testing the significance level. All of you getting? And that's why the difference is in all of these aspects, and those are statistical formula, level of significance, table value used for testing significance. Okay, that's why your correct answer should be 4. Next, a null hypothesis is. Now, what is the definition of null hypothesis? Whether it is an intelligent hunch about probable result, or it is a type of research hypothesis, or it is a statistical hypothesis to be tested, or it is a research hypothesis formulated for a statistical inference. So basically students, a null hypothesis is a statement in that we predict that there is no relationship between the variables under study. And in the research methodology, we only test the null hypothesis. Okay, this is the only hypothesis that we test in the research process, and that's why your correct answer should be 3. That is, it is a statistical hypothesis to be tested, because there are lots of research hypotheses including directional hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, which is also called as a research hypothesis, statistical hypothesis over there, simple hypothesis, composite hypothesis is there, but there is only one hypothesis, which is the null hypothesis, and that is only tested in the whole research process, not other any kind of hypothesis. Okay, and that's why your correct answer should be 3.
This we provide KSOU PhD Common Entrance Test 2023 paper to study material to all the candidates, so that they can score more marks in paper 2, that is in concerned subject. So in this we provide full syllabus notes and MCQs, and in the MCQ section we provide most expected and most repeated MCQs and as well PYQs. By the use of them, all the candidates can guaranteed score more marks in paper 2, and after that they can qualify the PhD Common Entrance Test at KSOU. So the subjects that I have mentioned on this screen, so on all of these subjects we provide paper to study material. So if you want study material for any other subject, then you can ask me in the comment box. The fees for paper to study material are only 999, and in this low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates, that they can guaranteed qualify PhD Common Entrance Test. So to join paper 1 and paper 2 courses, students can contact me through the WhatsApp numbers only that I have mentioned on the screen.
When we reject the null hypothesis, we are suggesting that the treatment is dash the dependent variable. So whenever we reject the null hypothesis in the research, then after that what will happen to the dependent variable and independent variable? So whether the treatment is not related with the dependent variable, or whether the treatment is likely to affect the dependent variable, or whether the treatment is not likely to affect the dependent variable, or none of these. So basically students, there are two basic types of hypothesis in whole research process, and those are null hypothesis, okay, that I have given the definition for this earlier in this video, and the another one is alternative hypothesis, okay, which is also called as the research hypothesis. Because in the alternative hypothesis we predict that there is a relationship between the two variables, but in the null hypothesis we predict that there is no relationship between the two variables under study. And that's why whenever we reject the null hypothesis, then automatically we accept the alternative hypothesis, okay. And that's why here ultimately we accept that there is the relationship between the two variables. So it means that the treatment is going to likely affect the dependent variable. It means that whenever we study the variables in the research process, so basically there are two common types of variables, and those are independent variables and dependent variables, okay. And whenever there is a relationship between these variables, then obviously independent variable is the cause variable, so it causes some effects in the dependent variable. So whenever we alter the values of independent variables, then obviously it will affect the values of the dependent variable. So it's like that, and that's why whenever we reject the null hypothesis, then obviously we are going to accept the alternative hypothesis, and that's why it suggests that the treatment is affecting the dependent variable, and that's why your correct answer should be 2, that is likely to affect the dependent variable. Which of the following outcomes is reflected when we fail to reject a false null hypothesis? So whenever we fail to reject a false null hypothesis, then what will happen? So whether there will be type 2 error or there will be type 1 error, or when there is both types of errors, and those are type 1 and type 2 error, or none of these. So students, basically there are two types of errors in the whole null hypothesis testing part, and those are type 1 error and type 2 error. Okay, so within the type 1 error, when it will happen or what is the outcome? So basically whenever there is null hypothesis, okay, and you are going to reject the null hypothesis, though it is true, okay, this null hypothesis is true, but still I am going to reject it. So in that case type 1 error will happen. And in what situation type 2 error happens? So whenever there is a null hypothesis, okay, and this null hypothesis is false, but I am not going to reject it, so I am going to accept it. Okay, so in this situation basically type 2 error happens, and that's why the above situation in the question is basically the type 2 error. Okay, because here the null hypothesis is false, but we are failing to reject it. It means that the null hypothesis is false, but we are accepting it. Okay, and that's why in this situation your outcome will be type 2 error. Okay, and I want to tell you one thing, that students, in the research methodology part, okay, either type 2 error will happen or type 1 error will happen. Okay, both the types of error and those are type 1 and type 2 error will not happen simultaneously in one research process. So understand this thing, students. Okay, and that's why your correct answer should be either type 2 error or type 1 error. So you need to eliminate this option as a whole. Okay, whenever such kinds of question will asked in your entrance exam. Okay, and that's why in this situation type 2 error is occurring. Which of the following is correct while conducting a test of significance? So whenever I am doing a test of significance, then okay, which of these following options are correct? So alpha is the probability of finding a significant correlation or difference erroneously by chance alone. Alpha should be set by the experimenter before the experiment. Alpha values are often set to 0.05 or 0.01, but there is nothing sacred about these numbers, all of these. So basically students, test of significance means what? So basically test of significance is nothing but you are testing your null hypothesis by using the statistical methods in the whole research process. Okay, and that's why what is exactly this alpha? So alpha is what? As we have seen earlier in this video that type 1 error occurs whenever we are testing the null hypothesis. So the probability of occurring type 1 error, okay, is called as alpha, and that's why ultimately alpha is the probability of finding a significant correlation or difference erroneously. All of you getting? Because this is the probability of occurring a type 1 error, and that's why ultimately this is the probability of finding a significant correlation between the variables or difference between the variables, but by chance alone. All of you getting? And as well, there is some common values for alpha, and experimenter or researcher should set these values before the experiment, because they will understand exactly what will happen or what will be the results of their research. Okay, and alpha values are often set to 0.05 or 0.01, but there is nothing sacred about these numbers. Again, this statement is correct because the smaller the values of alpha, the greater is the test of significance value. So I mean to say that your test results will be more significant when the alpha values will be more smaller. All of you getting? And that's why all of these options are correct. in regard to the test of significance part. Okay, now next is type 1 error occurs if. Now this is the easiest question. Okay, so whenever students, you will understand exactly what is the type 1 error and type 2 error, then you won't fail to answer these questions correctly in your exam. All of you getting? So let us see different options. The null hypothesis is rejected even though it is true. The null hypothesis is accepted even though it is false. Both the null hypothesis as well as alternative hypothesis are rejected. None of the above. So your correct answer should be obviously 1. As I have told you earlier in this video that whenever the null hypothesis is true but still we reject it, then in that situation type 1 error occurs. Okay, all of you getting? And that's why your correct answer should be 1. Okay. A statement of prediction. Now here focus on the word prediction, that sets forth the basis for testing the relationship between variables in an attempt to link theory to reality is called. So from these options, which is the statement of prediction, and this statement of prediction gives us a basic idea, okay, for testing the relationship between the variables. And as well, this is the statement of prediction, okay, and we are going to test this statement of prediction because we need to understand, okay, the relationship of the theory to reality. We are going to link the theory to reality. Okay, so this kind of statement of prediction is called as what? Whether it is random sampling, whether it is questionnaire, whether it is hypothesis, whether it is assumption. So all of you now understood that, students. Now the correct answer is hypothesis, because hypothesis is the statement of prediction. That's why I have told you that focus on this word prediction. So whenever you see prediction in the research methodology section, then it is nothing but the hypothesis. And one more thing is that hypothesis gives us the basic information, okay, about what? About the testing of relationship between the variables under study. And as well, this is the attempt to link theory part to the reality. All of you getting? And that's why your correct answer should be hypothesis, not assumption, because there is a lot of difference between hypothesis and assumption. Assumption is only the thing which comes after our intuitive thinking, but hypothesis is the proper prediction. It is a proper statement of prediction. This is not a intuitive thinking part. And as well, hypothesis includes the relationship between the variables, and as well, this is an attempt to link theory to reality, but assumption is not like this. All of you getting? And random sampling is the technique in the research process, okay, by using which we are going to select the samples from the target population. And questionnaire is the data collection method under which researcher asks the questions to the respondents and respondents give the answers to them. And that's why your correct answer should be 3. Okay. Hypothesis must have. So hypothesis must have which kind of feature or characteristic? So whether it is testability, whether it is applicability, whether it is durability or measurement. So hypothesis must have testability. This is the most important characteristic hypothesis must have, because whenever hypothesis does not have testability, then how we are going to test it? By using the statistical techniques. And that's why hypothesis must have testability. Okay, and that's why we can test it by using statistical techniques, and finally we get the results, okay, whether the results will be significant or non-significant. All of you getting? And that's why hypothesis must have testability. It should be clearly, notify exactly what is the relationship between the variables, and hypothesis, it should have clarity as well. That's why your correct answer should be 1. To test a null hypothesis, a researcher uses. So whenever I want to test a null hypothesis, then what type of statistical technique I should use. So whether it is t-test or ANOVA or x square or factorial analysis. So in this situation, a researcher uses ANOVA. So let me tell you why. So t-test is the parametric test, as we have seen earlier in before videos, right? So this is the parametric test, and here there are two groups, group 1 and group 2, and we are going to find out the mean values of group 1 and group 2, and we are going to compare these values, okay, whether the values are different or equal. And by comparing these mean values, we will get the results of our research. All of you getting? And this is nothing but the t-test, and t-test is going to compare only two variables. Okay, by using the t-test we can only compare the two variables, okay, in a whole research process. ANOVA, what is this? So ANOVA is the extension of t-test. I mean to say, this is the test which is based upon t-test only, but this is the advanced t-test, okay. And here we are going to analyze the variance basically. Okay, this is the analysis of variance, and within the ANOVA test we are going to compare the means of different groups, but here we can compare more than two variables at a time, and that's why ANOVA test is more favorable than t-test, okay. And that's why researcher uses ANOVA to test null hypothesis, because sometimes in a research process there are more than two variables. So in that situation we need to use ANOVA, okay, than t-test, okay. What is x square? X square is the chi-square test, okay, and chi-square test is a non-parametric test, and chi-square test is done to understand the difference between the expected values and the values that we get through our results basically, okay. And that's why to test a null hypothesis, researcher does not use chi-square test, okay. Researcher uses null hypothesis. And what is factorial analysis? So basically factorial analysis is the technique by which we reduces a large variable into smaller variable factor, and that's why it is called as a factorial analysis. So your correct answer for this question should be 2, okay. Next is, if the null hypothesis is false, then which of the following is accepted? This is the easiest question, students. Whenever we reject the null hypothesis because it is false, then what type of hypothesis we are going to accept? Whether it is null hypothesis, positive hypothesis, negative hypothesis, or alternative hypothesis. So obviously students, whenever we are going to reject the null hypothesis and it is false, then in that situation we are going to accept the alternative hypothesis, which is also called as the research hypothesis, right? That I have told you earlier in this video, okay. That's why your correct answer should be 4, that is alternative hypothesis. So students, I hope all of you understood exactly what is the hypothesis in the whole research methodology. But still, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment box of this video, okay.